Good morning, Year 4. It's the final English lesson of the week. We've reached Friday, and I'm really excited about this because we are going to be painting pictures with words, because we are really going to dig deep into how to make our descriptions really expressive and just delightful. Our particular focus today is upon something called a metaphor. More of that later. Okay, let's just really start to dig into description to begin with. So, how and why do we use description? So, I love the analogy of painting a picture with words. I think that's just a really beautiful way of describing it. Descriptive language is used to really grasp the reader so that they feel like they're part of the story or the scene. It can be used to create lots of different moods in terms of within a story setting. So it could trigger an emotional response. You might have a bit of fear, you might have a feeling of happiness, sadness, anger, because sometimes you can read something and you think, oh, why is that person doing that? This is what description can really add into our writing. It helps the reader create a picture in their mind. I always think the best story descriptions of settings are the one where you can close your eyes and you can almost paint it in your eyelids and imagine that you're actually there. So, what I'd like you to do for this very first start is you can either do this on your own and just have a think about what I've put on the screen, or you can have this as a discussion with somebody else in your household. So, if you were going to describe any of these three pictures here, what would you use? So you might use hot for the fire, you might use gnarled, there's a good word for that tree and how it looks. You might have cute for the dog. So that's adjectives. Are there any more that you could think of? Could you think of any similes to describe it? So you might describe something as being as hot as fire. Okay, so that would be an example. What words can you use to describe the pictures? Can you create a simile? That's not the learning for today, that's just a starter to get you thinking. So you can pause it here if you want to. Right, let's dig in a bit more. So we've talked about description. Now let's start to have a look at adjectives. Adjectives are one of the things that we start to use very, very early on within our schooling career. They are those words that we learn how to use that makes something sound better. Now we know within year 4 that we're using an adjective to describe a noun, a person, place or thing. Okay, now at the top I've given you two different images where adjectives have been used. So for example, the weather is hot, the clothes are pretty, the shoes are comfortable. Okay, on the other side as well, it's also looking a little bit more about where the position of that adjective can go as well, because on the first side they've all been used at the end, but on the second side there's some slightly different locations of where those words are. So the juicy pear, so we've got that word juicy going before it. Tina is angry, so it's going at the end. We talk about something being scary. So think about your positions for your adjectives. So adjectives, we're an absolute whiz at those, so we're not going to focus upon those today, but we know that within our writing they make our descriptions better. So let's have another look. Let's go a little bit further. So similes, again, this is something which we know how to use and we have known how to use for a few years within year 4. So a simile is a way of describing something where we compare it with something else. So the examples that you've got here, her eyes are like stars and her cheeks are like roses. So that suggests to you that her eyes are twinkling, that they're sparkly. Her cheeks are like roses. It tells you they're possibly pink or red. The second one, the car was as fast as a cheetah. That's telling you that car is speeding along very quickly, because we know from a cheetah it's a quick animal. It's an animal which moves at speed. So similes are created by making comparisons with things which people understand, which people recognise. So when I talk about her eyes are like stars, you know what that means, because you know in the sky that you can see the stars, they appear to twinkle. So that's what we're doing when we create a simile. We're comparing it with something which everybody will understand. So you've got a few more here on the screen as well. As busy as a bee, because when you see a bee moving around, it always looks busy. It's never dilly-dallying or going slowly. It's always looking to get somewhere else. Hungry as a bear. We think of creatures like bears as being really big, so they're perhaps always hungry, ravenous, flat as a pancake. Pancakes are not thick, doughy things. They're very, very flat. So when we talk about something as being flat as a pancake, you might compare like a car tyre. The tyre was as flat as a pancake. That tells you all the air's come out and it needs to have some air put back into it. So there's lots of ways that similes can work very effectively within our writing. But again, I don't want to focus upon those today either. We are going to have a look at metaphors today. Metaphors are another fabulous way to add description within our writing. They build upon what we already know about adjectives and similes, but they dig a bit deeper. This is like our deepen in the moment type activity. So if you have a look at these phrases on the left, how many of these have you heard before? Have you ever said any of them yourselves? So I know I have absolutely said, pick your feet up. Now I don't mean physically stretch down and lift your feet up off the floor. It's telling someone not to drag their feet. It means they're dragging their shoes along the floor. So pick your feet up, get moving, keep it going. Another one is come on slow coach. Okay, so a slow coach was a way of travelling. So it's implying by its very name that someone is not moving quickly. Okay, I'm sure you can probably look at some of these and think, I've definitely heard someone say that before to me, or oh, I know what that means, I've read it somewhere. So these are examples of metaphors. So you can see from this, these are not very complicated. These are concepts that we know. We understand how to use descriptive features within our writing. So this is what we are going to be focusing upon today. We've gone past adjectives, we've gone past similes. Our focus today is upon metaphors. So let's go a little bit further, year 4. So what about them? This picture hasn't come out as clearly as I would like, but you can still read it. So when you're using a metaphor, you're saying that something is something else. You're not saying like or as you would in a simile. You are saying that something is something. So I really like this one here. Life is a roller coaster. Life's not actually a roller coaster because we're not all riding around in roller coaster cars everywhere. It's telling you life is a bit up and it's a bit down, and it kind of goes around corners and you don't always know what to expect. I think that's a really lovely metaphor there. The world is a stage. Okay? It's not actually a stage. You're not physically getting onto a stage and acting out your day, but it's explaining that each day is like a new day getting on stage, a new opportunity to perform, a new opportunity to be something or be somebody else or be whatever it is you want to be. So metaphors are really lovely descriptive ways of making sure that the reader has got a very clear visual image in their mind, so you can picture it. So when you're talking about him being a shining star, you're talking about somebody who is standing out, who is visible, who is making an effort to make sure they are seen. Okay, so I've given you a really gorgeous picture here, year 4, just as a talking point to begin with here. So I want you to have a look at what's going on in the picture. You've got a very stormy looking sky, got that flashes of the lightning going across the sky as well, and the town that's sort of twinkling with lights, but it looks really small underneath that sky, and what looks like a mountain in the background as well. So have a think about maybe focusing on one thing here, talk about it with somebody else, or have a think about it yourself. What could you describe? So have a pause here for a moment, and on the next slide I've put 3 very simple ideas together to give you a bit of an idea about what you could do, but this might be something you come back to and you decide you want to write some more about this once you've done some exploring with metaphors in the rest of this session. Okay, I'm going to move on now, but feel free to pause if you need to. So my 3 sentences which I generated here in terms of metaphors, I've put the sky was electric. Now it's not actually got electricity running through it, but I know that electricity is about a charge, and it looks like a charge is running through that sky with those great big flashes of lightning going through it. It looks like the sky is being powered by something. So that's why I've chosen to use that there. The sky was electric. I'm not saying that the sky is like electric, I'm saying it is electric. Okay, the second one, it's a bit more complex but it says the angry sky bellowed at the toy town below. So I have shown here that the town looks like a toy town. I haven't said it's like a toy town, I've said at the toy town. I've said it's a toy town, so I'm giving you an indication that it looks quite small underneath this sky. I've also used a bit of personification in here as well. So I've made the sky sound like a person, like a cross person. But that works for that. I think that works quite well there. I'm sure you could come up with far better things than I have for this though. And I've put as well a third option, the storm was a light show. Because if you ever think about fireworks going off, and if you ever think about seeing a light show at Christmas, or you go to an event somewhere and you've got lots of flashing lights and they kind of pop up at different angles and kind of grab your attention, that's a bit like what it's like when lightning's happening in the sky. So these are just 3 examples which I've put together for that previous image. As I've already said, I'm sure you could come up with something else. I'm sure you could come up with something better than I have as well with some thinking time. Let's have a look at what I would like you to focus upon today though. So this is the first sheet that comes within your English for today. Remember, if you are at home, the documents are all on the website, so you can download them or you can choose to bring them up on screen and do it in that way. So you could do this in 2 columns in your book, or you could have it printed out and do it in colour. So what I would like you to do is to identify which ones are similes and which ones are metaphors. Now, I've suggested using 2 colours here just because I'm a big fan of colour, you know that, and I think it'll help you to distinguish them really easily. Now, I've put a bit of a hint at the bottom as well. Remember that similes include the word like or as. So that's your little helpful hint there with this first part of the English activity for today. So you're going to colour in the similes in one colour, the metaphors in another colour. Now, I don't need to remind you, but I will, that you need to do it neatly. It's about taking pride in your work and making sure things are neat all the way through. Okay, so that's an explanation of what you need to do to begin with. I move on to the next part now. Right, this part here is purely for information to help you with the next part. Now, I have given you here examples of metaphors, and I have join them together with just a little line in between. So what I would like you to do is to choose one of these metaphors. I really like the rocks are jagged knives. That's the one I just pointed to. I quite like that one, but you can pick whichever you like. Then what you're going to do, I'm going to move on to the next slide and explain it. You're going to create a picture. Okay, so I have done one here for you. I've found an image of this metaphor. It's raining cats and dogs. Now, when we talk about it's raining cats and dogs, it's not physically doing that. We know that. It's a very silly thing to say. But when we talk about it's raining cats and dogs, it means it's absolutely teeming it down. It hasn't stopped raining. Umbrellas aren't even remotely touching it. And it's just really, really foul out there. And it's a funny phrase, but it's one that everybody seems to know. So what I would like you to do is to pick one of the metaphors from the previous page, from the previous slide, and I would like you to draw it in here. So I'd like you to draw an example for it. So when it talks about the rocks are jagged knives, okay, you could think about how you are going to make that look. So you're going to draw the one of your choice beautifully in here, do it neatly, add colour, and then you'll see there is a box underneath as well, Year 4, and I would like you to write your chosen metaphor in there neatly, cursively, capital letter at the start, full stop at the end, and remember to copy that spelling accurately. Now, this is just one. I'm sure that some of you who have got a particularly creative head for things like pictures and colour and how to bring words to life could probably think, well, I'm sure I could probably do that for more of them. Feel free to draw out more in your book or onto paper and create as many metaphor drawings as you would like to. Now, this is a drawing-based activity for this particular part, so you need to take care with what you are doing. Think about what it is you are going to show before you put it down, and if I've given you a box that size, please don't draw a tiny little image right in the centre. Fill the box, use your colour, make it tidy, make it eye-catching, make me go wow when I have a look at it. When you're done, remember as always to get your grown-ups to take a very clear picture, okay? Email that over to me and see if you are going to make it onto the Fab 5. I'm looking forward to seeing what you come up with here, Year 4. I think they could look quite interesting, quite entertaining actually, some of them. Potentially some of them, depending on which one you choose, might have a bit of a scary edge to it as well. So see what you feel like doing, get them over to me, and I am looking forward to see what you come up with for it. Thank you, Year 4.